Hey there! Is today your first time here? Or maybe your first time in a while? If so, maybe you're wondering exactly who we are and what this church is all about. Well, we'd like you to know that we're a group of ordinary people who are on an amazing journey together, following Christ. Our guide is the Bible because it's the divinely inspired Word of God, and it will never take us in the wrong direction. Along the way, we hope you'll see that we are welcoming and spiritually passionate, and that getting to know you is a big deal to us. We know that the road is rough sometimes, but we'll work really hard to bring you practical and relevant messages to equip and encourage you through life's ups and downs. We want you to know that we care about this community, and we believe that it's our job to make it a better place. So, no matter who you are or where you've been, we're glad you're here with us today, and we hope that you'll join us on our journey, following Christ and living out His plan for us. So, welcome to church.
Now presenting Victory News Network, VNN, upcoming events. Tune Up Tuesday Bible Study, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Review the flyer for the Zoom online meeting ID. Pray with us every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Zoom. Submit your prayer requests via email to info@everythingvictory.org. Join Victory Community Church and Pastor Otis Petteway every Sunday at 10 a.m. Tune in on Facebook Live or YouTube.
This time has been set aside to welcome all of our guests. With that in mind, if this is your very first time sharing with us here at Victory Community Church, I ask that you will go to our website, www.everythingvictory.org. Fill out a guest form. We want to definitely stay connected to you and your family. On behalf of Pastor Otis Petteway, myself, Lady Sheikah Petteway, and the entire Victory Community Church family, we welcome you.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. I pray that you are having a great day, had a great week. Before we get started, I just want to take a moment out to thank everyone for your continued support during this time, the text messages, the calls, financially being responsible during this time and this season. I understand that it is a trying time for everyone, but I did want to take time out to say I love you. Thank you for honoring what God has entrusted with us in the kingdom through Victory Community Church and some of the great things that we have coming up. I'm excited about. So today we have a great discussion that we're going to have with you all. I know historically we're used to a bunch of me standing behind the pulpit and preaching, but for this month we're doing a series on mental health awareness, and we're excited about that. And I'm asking that you pray with us and pray for us. But we're going to talk this morning from 1 Samuel 30 and 6. 1 Samuel 30 and 6. And this is how it reads out of the NIV. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because the soul of all the people were grieved, and every man for his sons and for his daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. Today I want to talk briefly this morning just about this thing about powering through PTSD. Powering through PTSD.
Yes.
And the reason that we're talking about this is because it says in the first part of this text, it says that David was greatly distressed. Watch this. But not only does it say that he was distressed, but he was grieved because he had went through a loss as well as the people that were mad at him. But that was a traumatic experience of what he came back home to. But watch this. This is what blesses me. They gave us this title about powering through. But he encouraged himself. And we always try to figure out how to do stuff through other people and how to get assistance and aid through other people. But sometimes the struggle is what you're dealing with within yourself. And this is the thing, is that the grief, watch this, the grief and the distress was inside of him. So his deliverance had to come from inside of him. So there's a lot of stuff that we struggle with that we try to figure out how can other people assist and aid us in all of this stuff that we're dealing with. But the truth of the matter is that it really has nothing to do with us, nothing to do with them. It has to do with us. It's about what you internalize that has caused you to have a certain level of problem. So let's discuss what this PTSD is. I compiled about 6 different definitions into one definition of what I believe PTSD is. And trust me, it's a little long, but we'll be posting all of the notes on our Facebook page. This isn't about secrecy. This is about sharing. So what I believe that PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, a mental health condition that develops and is triggered in some people following a traumatic event. Watch this. The event or stressor can be either experiencing or witnessing death or threatened death, or actual threatened serious injury, or actual threatened sexual violence. Watch this. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. Yeah. So all of that to say this. What is post-traumatic stress disorder? It's literally in the name. It's post, which means after. Traumatic stress is post a traumatic event, but it's causing you stress and it's a disorder, which means what? That it's out of order, that it's not what you were designed to have to deal with. It's the embodiment of fear at one time. It is literally the effects that the issue has on you after you've dealt with it. So we're going to talk about how to get through it. Because my argument, and this is probably different than most medical professionals that have went to school, but I'm taking their research and telling you what I view it and to have said, is that most people, not just Americans, not just African Americans, not just church people, but most people are dealing with PTSD in some level of your life, in some area of your life, in some degree of your life. You are dealing with a disorder that is causing you some level of problem, some level of grief, some level of struggle, some level of pain and anxiety. It is causing you a level of anxiousness. Because we've all been through something. And it's time out for the church to just say pray. Because prayer is just like James said, I believe. He says that faith without works is dead. Which means what? That if you believe that you can be healed from this issue, then you have to get up and do something. You just can't wait on God to snatch the feeling and fear from you. So we compiled 8 different things. Don't get nervous. We're not going to be here that long. We described 8 different things to help you get past your traumatic situation. Because when I say a traumatic situation, everybody should have thought of something that they've been through that has affected you at some level. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, first thing you have to do is acknowledge the reality of your trauma. Acknowledge the reality of your trauma. You have to admit to yourself, to God, and at least one other person that you are hurting and in need of healing. Identify the symptoms you are experiencing and their frequency and their impact on your life. What does that mean? It literally is saying that if you are going through something, you have to realize that this isn't normal. I read up and researched about cancer, and what I realized about cancer is that the problem with most people is that cancer is not a it's not something that happens to you. It's when your normal stuff doesn't operate in its normal mode, that they become cancerous. That when the cells get too greedy, they clump together and become cancerous. That literally is that it was already in you.
Okay.
That it had the potential to hurt you the whole time. But when it turned and became from normal and became abnormal, then it became a problem. So what are you saying? Is that you can walk around abnormal and acting like you're okay. But what we've realized about cancer is even if you ignore it, it don't go away.
Jesus.
So you can have this traumatic situation, this traumatic stressor, this traumatic life experience that you're going through. But the truth of the matter is that if you don't acknowledge that you have a problem, that you are suffering, that you've been through something, and that's why they tell people that when you're grieving, don't make great decisions for 6 months. If you are, if you've been in a relationship, spend time getting to know yourself. Why? Because some relationships can be traumatic situations. If maybe it wasn't traumatic when it happened, but in your subconscious, it's something you never got past. That it's something that always triggers you. And y'all know, shameless plug, come on Tuesday nights, and we talk about this on Tuesday night. We started and we're going to finish it this Tuesday, about these triggers that set you off. But if it's important enough to trigger you, then it's important enough to be dealt with. So that's the first thing you have to do, is you have to acknowledge the reality of the trauma, that you've actually been through something.
I want to kind of chime in a little bit with this. Also, I want to encourage you all that's watching to send in your questions, because we're going to dialogue a little bit and I'll be able to see and read your questions. So send them in. Also, we're also following the chat right now and praying for anyone that's requesting prayer, and making sure that we kind of touch base on everything. But Pastor, I kind of want to slow down a bit. You said acknowledge the reality of your trauma.
Right.
And I don't want to move past that, because that's literally step one. And with that being step one, sometimes, going through things, you may think that you acknowledged the reality of it. You may think that you've acknowledged it because you say, okay, yes, I've been through a breakup. Or, okay, yes, this person is no longer in my life. But I kind of want to dig deeper. This is why. I'm just saying this because I could remember going through, a couple of years ago, I went through Hurricane Katrina.
Okay.
At that time, I considered myself a young adult, and I was just kind of thrust into a new life. I didn't feel like, oh, this is traumatic, but oh my goodness. It was a whirlwind where you were kind of moving away and it being a choice, and moving away where you have no choice. It was the difference that made the situation traumatic. Well, as I was going through it, I felt like I understood the reality. I felt like I acknowledged, like, okay, it's a hurricane. Okay, my house is gone. But I really didn't understand the fullness of the reality of what I just went through, that my life will never be the same. Right. It took years later for me to really fully sit down and process what just happened. And it wasn't that the new life I had was bad or anything. It was just one day it was this and next day it was that. And so as I was going through that experience, I could remember right after Katrina, just forced to kind of get a new job. I loved the job that I had, and I would get so sleepy all day. It started taking a physical toll on my body. So I would be exhausted at 12 noon, stuff like that. So sometimes we go through trauma and we're so shaken, yet we're forced to kind of still move through the day, or still move on, or still be a mom, or still be a wife, right, or still be a husband. And we never really get a chance to slow down our world to really kind of acknowledge, not just acknowledge, but acknowledge the reality.
Right.
The real truth. The real reality of, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Things have changed. So dig a little deeper with that. Like, help us. What could we do when we're in the midst of a whirlwind? How could we slow down? How could we push a pause for a second to really? Sometimes it's so overwhelming. The only thing you can do is continue to move forward because you feel like your life is gonna fall apart.
Well, I think the one thing that I said that and I, even though Katrina was so many years ago for you, and just sharing a little bit of what I've realized by being with you, when Hurricane Harvey came, it was a trigger for you.
Oh my, yes.
And the thing that I did without even acknowledging it with you is by discussing what that made you feel like, what talked through your feelings. Because the truth of the matter is, it's two things that you have to acknowledge. Is one, that this really happened.
Yes.
And in acknowledging the reality of your trauma, you have to say, I actually went through something. I actually am I'm sitting in a situation that I don't know how I got myself into or how it happened to me. The acknowledgement. This is the thing. The acknowledgement most of the time raises more questions than it does answers.
Ooh.
We think that the acknowledgement is the answer, but it's not. It's the conversation starter. It's literally what gets you, because most of us that have been through traumatic, I thought about something while I was sitting here about the acknowledgement of trauma. Trauma can literally be what you feel like is a normal relationship.
Right.
You're in a relationship with someone, you're married to me. You need to acknowledge that you've been through a divorce, that you've been through a separation, that you spent, when you get in relationships, you spend time trying to make sure everybody gets to understand who you are.
Right.
And then you then go through the next phase of what I call the continual compromise. You keep trying to change who you are and keep trying to change what you're going through. I'm having to be better. I'm discovering a new me. I mean, you went through a phase last year. We laugh about it all the time.
Right.
You rediscovered yourself.
Yeah.
So it's a whole nother thing. But then if the relationship doesn't work out, then you have to acknowledge that I am a new person.
Yeah.
That I went through a situation. Nobody, and this is even with divorce being as common as it is, I don't think people understand the emotional toll it takes on you.
Yes.
We've spent so much time being Johnny Taylor talking about it's cheaper to keep her, but the truth of the matter is that money is the least expensive thing that you lose in a divorce.
You're
because
right.
you've lost separation with children. You've had separation of the person that you've shared your emotional life with. You've set up certain parameters and put them in a trusting box.
Psychological.
But when the judge says y'all can go your separate ways, whatever led up to that?
Yeah.
If you don't acknowledge it, then you lead yourself into a gateway of other emotional issues that can box you in and have you in this mindset because you didn't acknowledge it. And then the problem with not acknowledging your trauma, the reality of your trauma, you end up making bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. And then you're in a space that nobody can get you out of. But the problem isn't the person. It's that you never took time to recognize that you were in a bad headspace.
Right.
That you had a trauma, that I've been hurt. Okay, let me give you another one that's physical. That we talk about this disorder because it's traumatic, but the truth of the matter is that some of it is it can be physical. That you are in a situation that is a physical ailment, that something physically happens to you. That after that situation, you need to acknowledge sometimes that you are in a tailspin.
What do you mean?
Okay,
When you say a
I
physical
know.
situation.
I'm going that you can be in a car accident
Okay.
and your adrenaline is going so high
Oh yes, now I'm with you.
that you don't even recognize that you were in an accident.
Right.
And you get out, look at your car, and keep on moving, and then
I feel
it's
fine.
not.
I'm okay.
Totally fine.
Yeah, I got you.
And they keep saying you need to go to the hospital. But the problem with it is that most of us struggle because you have this thing in you that told you to keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Right.
When you really should have stopped and sat down. And that's how we do in life. You should have stopped and sat down, but you just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
Wow.
And when you do that, you end up re-injuring yourself.
Yeah.
Because you're running on adrenaline and you can't stop and sit down and heal yourself and spend time with yourself and love yourself and learn how to re-love yourself.
Right.
And I think the first thing that you have to do that helps with the acknowledgement is you have to learn to sit down. I promise y'all, I have, and what I'm realizing is in doing this mental health awareness and being in dealing with the lockdown and everything that's going on and the opening back up, the one thing that I'm starting to realize, y'all, is that my first step to everything is rest.
That's good.
You sometimes can slow down long enough and just sit down and be quiet.
You have to.
Most of us can't acknowledge the reality of what we've been through because you ain't sit down to acknowledge nothing.
Right.
We spend so much time trying to make everybody else okay. You just have need to sit down.
Just take a moment.
Just take a breath. Just acknowledge that it is what it is. And it seems as if this is the problem with most of us, is that it seems as if we sit down, then our life won't stop.
Yeah.
That the world is gonna stop spinning. That the people that depend on us, everything is gonna go crazy. But if this lockdown hadn't taught you anything, if this COVID-19 hadn't taught you anything, is that the world outside of your four walls can survive a day without you.
That is so true.
That the world is not needed for you so it can keep spinning. If they don't like it when I stop and sit down, it don't matter. Just take time for you. Because watch this, and this is not even on PTSD, but since we here, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna chase this rabbit. Is that if you are not healthy mentally, you cannot help anybody else besides hurt. If you don't stop and sit down somewhere and say, I'm going to sit down and let my light shine for a minute. Let me sit down and regroup. Let me sit down and recalibrate. Watch this. Let me sit down and count up the cost of what that last move cost me.
What just happened?
Some people just need to stop. You know, I see people sometimes that you're driving down the road. This is the best example I can come up with. That you're driving down the road and somebody almost hit you. Like yesterday, we were coming home and someone almost hit us.
Jesus, yes.
And what I really wanted to do, if we would have had the space, would be to literally pull over to the side of the road and regroup.
Yes.
And watch this. It wouldn't have helped me drive any better. I have driving skills. It wouldn't have given us a car. We had a car. We have a car. But what it would have done would have been allowed us to go to the next phase, comfortable, readjust, re-examining our situation, and just say the reality of what we just dealt with. We almost were hit. And that's sometimes people don't have time to stop and acknowledge the real hit. So the almost hits, they never even acknowledge.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You want to go on?
Sure. I'll go to number 2. After you acknowledge your trauma, the second thing you have to do is recognize the source of your trauma.
Well, why behind it?
Well, Pastor, you said to acknowledge the trauma. No. Acknowledging the trauma is acknowledging what happened. Watch this. But when you recognize the source, you recognize where it came from. Okay.
Where did this?
Okay. It's literally finding the source. Let me explain it to you. It's the difference in kingdom of trying to God gives you blessing. In that statement, you see two things: the source and the resource. The blessings is not the source; it's the resource. Means that I've received something, but where did that blessing come from? That blessing came from God. So that means God is the source. Come on, y'all. Richard Small, you are the source of my strength. I have strength, but where did it come from?
Right.
So if you recognize the source of your trauma, some of us struggle because, watch this, we keep going in situations because we acknowledge the trauma, but we didn't figure out where it came from. All right. Let me go deeper because I wanna. I know this is gonna take a little minute to dive into that. You have to explore and discover the source of your pain. Watch this. You don't have to discover what's hurting. You need to find out
the source, the foundation.
Source, the bottom line. Where did this problem come from? Because if in every situation you are the victim, then you have to find out what is it about you that attracts people to victimize you.
Right.
Not saying that if it happened one time, you didn't happen. People are crazy. I get all that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, in every situation is a lesson.
Yes. Come on.
So you have to learn to sit in your situation and figure out, once you acknowledge it, now I can sit in it. Because see, when traumatic situations happen, you have to realize that most of us stop growing at traumatic situations. That most of us stop developing. Most of us stop maturing when we have a traumatic situation. Which leads us to understand that psychologists say that most people that are in and dealing with psychological situations and trauma situations, you emotionally stunt your growth. So you if something happened to you at 12, you are still this 12-year-old in a state of your mind that you hadn't recognized, because you never, watch this, you never go back and talk to that 12-year-old child.
Right.
To tell them either it's not your fault, or you can't, and then the problem is that you end up having a baby Huey in your life that you are throwing temper tantrums. Because you never grew up from that 12-year-old that was abused, that was had a traumatic situation, had a traumatic lifestyle. And most of us struggle with trying to grow that 12-year-old up in a 30-year-old body, and you keep trying to stress how are you going to fight this battle? Because you keep saying, I'm not worldly. I'm trying to become saved, but the problem isn't that you're worldly. The problem is that it's a 12-year-old in you that still want to throw a temper tantrum because you never acknowledge the trauma and the source of that situation. Watch this, not the person. That's why we use this word specifically. It's not the person that caused you the problem. It's the source. The source doesn't have to be a person. It can be an act. Because the act can come through multiple people. And most of us that have experienced trauma that have never acknowledged it, is that we've realized that in our life, that trauma comes dressed up in many different skins. Is that multiple people struggle with that same issue. And now you have a spirit of it that attracts that same trauma because you've never been delivered from it. And then when you did get delivered, watch this, when you did get delivered, you never took time to acknowledge and correct it. So what happened was, once you got deliverance from it, you went back into it because it was the only thing you knew.
Ooh.
What does that mean? You got out of that relationship. And I keep using relationships because they're the most common way in interaction that we have with other people. That you got out of that abusive relationship and found somebody else that had abusive tendencies, but you felt like they were different.
Right.
But you didn't realize that it was something in your spirit
that connected,
that attached you to abusive people.
Yeah. And
because you never recognized the source of it. Because you felt like even though it hurt, it was still love. Even though it was abusive, even though he still spent time with me. and I hope nobody gets offended, but I have to go there. It's what most females deal with emotionally from emotionally bankrupt men that they deal with, that you end up having intimacy with them only for them to lay in the bed to talk to you for 5 minutes before they go to sleep.
Right.
And because you're longing for a dad or a male influence, so you deal with releasing your body to someone for the 5 minutes of conversation after it, not realizing that you've been through a traumatic situation.
Right. They're not even connected to you.
Don't even have a clue that they're filling a void from you not acknowledging. And the problem is, watch this, even if you got a good dude, you wouldn't acknowledge him because you don't want a dude, you want daddy.
Right.
So you end up getting him to physically put his hands on you because that's what you were taught, that's what love was. So instead of you having an acknowledgement of what love really is, you have this misconception that love is going to be abusive. Love is you putting your hands on me. Love is you correcting me with your rod of correction. And now I've turned my whole life around to deal with, watch this, to deal with people that have never put their hands on me, but I'm still not happy because that's the only love I've ever known.
You know, recognizing the source of your trauma, it's really deep because this is something you're gonna need God for.
Yes.
You're gonna need.
Yes, indeed.
God. This is where we get stuck, because we feel like we can recognize the source of the trauma on our own when we've been traumatized.
Right.
And this is where your relationship with God flow hand in hand, because what God is going to give you is the wisdom. What God is going to give you is self-awareness as well. He's going to give you the self-awareness to be able to recognize behavior patterns.
Right.
Recognize the emptiness and the voids. And something will begin to not feel right. You know, and say, wait, when this happened, I feel like this. He'll give you the sensitivity. So it's really hard. And I have scripture for that. Blind Bartimaeus.
Uh-huh.
There's a blind man sitting by the road that was blind as a child. And they said, well, was it his mom and dad that did something? Everyone was looking to recognize the source of his trauma.
Right.
But he kept screaming Jesus. He kept shouting. And the person who could help him recognize it was the person who said it was for the glory of God.
Had nothing to do.
Had nothing to do with fault. Had nothing to do with. So in order to actually recognize, you have this person that was blind from a child. And we have things that we've dealt with from childhood.
Right.
All of us. But he's still growing. He grew with blindness.
Growing.
He was still blind as a child. The last thing he could remember was
that he was
right.
blind.
So he still grew with his deficiency. And that's how we are. We still grow with the different things, but in order to recognize the source, the actual source of the trauma, we're going to need the wisdom from God. We're going to definitely need that. Remember to still send in your questions. We're still doing that as well. So, number three is reach out for counseling. Oh man, I knew it was gonna get quiet right there. Counseling.
Feel like ain't nobody in the house. This is how I feel about counseling. It helps you process the effects of it, dig into the source of it, and gives you the ability to come up with a plan to deal with the blowback from it.
Okay.
This is what it does. This is what counseling does. And I'm everybody that knows me knows I'm a proponent for counseling professionally. Go talk to somebody. That you have to sit on the couch This is. Can I tell you, historically, what has destroyed the African American mindset, mainly in America, to help us be emotionally better? I can't. Watch this. I can't get you healed of it, but I can diagnose it. Y'all ready for it? What happens in this house stays in this house.
Goodness.
If I could take that saying and burn it, because what happens in this house don't stay here. It didn't start here. It's not going to develop here. It's not going to grab root here.
Jesus.
What happens in this house, you take to college.
You.
What happens in this house, you take into a marriage.
Yeah.
What happens in this house, you put it on your children.
Yeah.
And you don't, watch this, your personality don't even demand that you talk to children the way you talk to them. But it's because somebody talked to you that way that you think that that's how people are supposed to be talked to. But the truth of the matter is that some of us are in our 30s and 40s and late 20s dealing with stuff that they were told us was supposed to stay in the house. And doggone it, I'm struggling because I keep saying that this is supposed to be in my house. But no, I'm struggling because all of the stuff that I was told that I was supposed to deal with and let go of and ignore and not let anybody talk to me that kind of way or just hush and it won't happen again or this is none of that stuff helps us. But then it's the source of your problem.
Jesus.
And then you're stunted at this level. And watch this, the people that were supposed to protect and guide you are the same ones that try to hide the situation.
Yeah.
So then we end up with this complex of I'm not important. So then my body isn't important because whoever touched me is now overpowering.
You might say it, Pat.
So now I'm having a dilemma where I'm not struggling with deliverance because I was told that deliverance was normal.
Say it.
And whoever started it was demonic. And instead of me casting out that demon, I'm end up stuck talking about what happens here stays here. So I'm protecting a name and a legacy that isn't even the truth. When, watch this, now that I'm in my adult years, I can tell y'all, legacy ain't nothing if it's not a real legacy.
Ooh.
Your name, your clout, your affiliations mean nothing if it's not who you really are. I'm sick of people in the kingdom having false humility. If you're arrogant, be arrogant. If you're a liar, be a liar. If you're a whoremonger, be a whoremonger. Be whatever you want to be. But at the end of the day, don't sell me a bucket of dreams telling me what happens here stays here, and then I'm supposed to be okay with it. Now, watch this, I'm walking around abused so you can have a lucky time.
Right.
I'm walking around abused and my children are having to deal with me looking at them crazy trying to make sure that nobody takes advantage or does anything with and for them. And it's all because what happens here
stays here.
No, what happens here goes to a couch and spends $30 to $60 a week trying to talk to somebody to grow up this 12-year-old that you looking at a 35-year-old man that's making 12-year-old decisions because what happens here didn't stay here. It grabbed root in here. Right. And now I'm still making decisions because of what happened to you. You end up trying to prove that you're not something that you would never happen to be.
Yeah. And counseling doesn't have to be this war that we created to be. Like, a lot of people say, well, is something wrong with me if I have to go to counseling? They have this big dilemma. I am the problem if I reach out for help, or I have a problem. That's just a negative approach. Approaching counseling with an open mind that I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to be challenged. See, a lot of people really sometimes run from reaching out for help and getting counseling from an actual outsider or professional because they really just don't want to be challenged when counseling that's not what it's built for. It's really there to help you kind of process where you are and where you're trying to go. It's there as an accountability measure. So if you're having post-traumatic stress, life problems, trials, that's the thing that helps you slow things down and kind of just walk through them to see what you really want.
Right.
Or what you really need and what really gives you strength and what's taken away from you. So when you take a different mental approach to it,
right.
It kind of open you up. It's not about the other person at all. You know, if it's a marriage counseling, it's definitely not about the other person. I mean, we've went to counseling. I brought him to counseling. He's brought me to counseling. Look, you need to fix my wife.
And most of the
you
time,
need to fix him.
And most of the time, we find out that it's not the person that you thought it was.
It's you.
The one word that really popped in my head while you were talking about this, and it had to be God because my mind was on something else. Not total different subject, but I was approaching it from a different way. God gave me this word, safe place.
Yes.
And a counselor is that. It's a safe place. It's not the place where what you go to gets repeated.
Right.
It's the place you go to that where everybody else has told you and told all of your business that you can't deal with this and you're not going to be able to deal with that and you're not going to be able to get past this, or they try to normalize your trauma.
Yeah.
And understand this, that when you normalize your trauma, it's still your trauma.
True.
You can't normalize unnormal stuff. It's not normal.
It's not normal.
So, but this is what a counselor does. It gives you a place to go and to be able to discuss what you can't discuss with anybody else without judgment.
Yeah. And that's key.
That when you go, you're able to tell them your rawest, dirtiest thoughts.
Yeah.
And come out with a plan. Because now, after I can remove all of this
mask
and be who I really am, I can sit on the couch and tell them, I don't know who I am.
Yeah.
I lost who I was on this day.
Yeah.
And that, come on, this is after you have acknowledged your stuff. And I know the numbers are what they are, and we have to look at, all of this stuff. But understand this. I put on this spiritual warfare t-shirt today because I know that PTSD, if we get deliverance from this, of this alone feeling, of this feeling like you are the only person that has ever had to deal with this, and you're not a good person because you've been through this, you're not dirty because you've been through this, you're not unacceptable because you've been through this. Whatever that trauma was, you are still who you are, and you have no reason and no ability to make anybody like you or being undeserving of God's blessing and God's love. Because at the end of the day, what I'm going to tell you is that you are worth something. You are a child of the King, that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly above all you can ask or think. But then this is the thing about it. When you go to counseling, it allows you a place to grow that 12-year-old up. Because you keep making bad decisions after bad decision. And what they call it in investing is you keep throwing good money at a bad situation.
Yeah.
And you started acting out, trying to conceal this person. And we think because you got a job, you got a family, you got a car, you got money in your account, that you've grown, and you, no. That don't make you grown. That make you an adult. Grown-ups do grown-up things.
Yeah.
You go from being a youth to an adult when you transfer an age.
Yeah.
But grown-ups make grown-up decisions. Yeah. That you realize that you're going to have to live. See, there's a difference. The difference between an adult and a grown-up. An adult, watch this. can make the decisions a grown-up is willing to live with it.
Live with it.
I did it. I know I did it. And understand this. I'm not telling you from my spiritual perspective. This is my natural point of view. I've had to grow up the 12-year-old me.
Yeah.
I've had to sit on the couch and tell them, hey, I don't like him. And be talking about me.
Right.
People, see, this is what I don't get. This is what I don't understand with a lot of people. You keep trying to act like everybody else has abused and used you. The truth of the matter is, sometimes I didn't like Otis.
That's
I've been through some stuff that made me not even want to deal with me. So how can I get mad at people
from that one
for not wanting to deal with me when it was some stuff that I told myself I wouldn't do?
Yeah.
And like, it's bad when you start lying to
yourself.
But then I went and sat on the couch and realized that it wasn't the 30-year-old me that was lying to the 30-year-old me. It was the 12-year-old me that took over because the 30-year-old said, I'm tired of doing that. But the 12-year-old said, you need to prove to them who you are.
Right.
And see, the problem is that you've not acknowledged that. You've not realized what the source of that thing is, and you've not gotten aid to assist you with it.
We have to. Counseling is so important. It's important to our mental health. And sometimes we seek the wrong type of counsel, though. You know, Pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And seeking the wrong type of counsel can make us and have us even stuck, you know. I'm not saying you shouldn't get advice from family and friends. What I'm saying is sometimes you just need someone with a non-biased perspective. You know.
Can I say it?
Yeah.
Can I? Because you so
nice.
you're so nice and so lovely and so anointed and oily with it.
Stop it.
Let me tell you the way I feel it. You talking to friends and family, you get what you pay for, baby. How somebody else that's triggered gonna untrigger you?
Come on now.
they got their own deliverance and issues and situations that they dealing with. And how you gonna go and talk to them about trauma, watch this, that they knew about but didn't help you with? They gonna help deliver you out of some stuff that they still they still struggling with. And understand this, as a pastor, as a spiritual leader in the kingdom of God, as a first generation pastor, as a guy that grew up in church from childhood, there are some things that I personally will refer you to a professional counselor if you come and talk to me about.
Yes.
I believe that the church and the secular realm for counseling, there are certain techniques that I don't know. There are certain things that I don't know. And after I tell you to pray and give you the steps to become the principles, because I like preaching and teaching principles. So after I give you the spiritual principles that will help you develop in this next season of your life, I'm going to give you a number to go and call and get some professional help. Because there's some things that they're going to be able to do that I can't do. I can cast that demon out. But what I can't do is prepare you for the next stage of your life. Because once I get that demon out of you, you're going to need to talk to that 12-year-old you.
You need to.
Because what I'm going to do is whoop him. Because see, I'm going to beat him into submission.
Yeah.
And make him realize that you don't live here. You can't work here. That's why I pastor victory. Because I have victory over that 12-year-old you that's still struggling with that traumatic issue or demon that you got going on. But after I get him into submission, we need to get some counseling because you need to have some positive things.
Reinforcement.
To come on.
Has to have that positive reinforcement. And it has to take a holistic approach for things to get better.
Oh, yeah.
The church being a foundation, a counselor, support from family and friends, all of that plays a major part as you're recovering and empowering through PTSD. You can't power through without a good foundation. You have this going on over here, but then negativity over here. It has to be a holistic approach. in all areas. You're going to have to have a positive environment in order to really move forward. If you're trying to move forward and then your friends still have stanky thinking, then it knocks you off the balance scale. So you have to put yourself around positivity.
Yeah.
And the thing that's going to help you actually heal all the way through and not pull you back or push you out of the way of the actual growth that's necessary. So, Pastor, looks like we have a little more time. You want to go to number 4? We're kind of touching now in the Bible study a little bit, but I mean,
sure.
I think we can open that one up.
Let's talk about it. Realize situations can trigger memories.
Yes.
This is triggers. Triggers are what we're talking about on Tuesday nights. We started it last week. I put it up. Everybody wants to talk about how you acted, but no one wants to talk about what triggered you. And the truth of the matter is, your triggers are your own responsibility. And what you can control, you have to control, because there's a lot of things you cannot control. Mm-hmm. That the trauma was most likely external, that there was something that was done to you, either emotionally, physically, spiritually. You've been wounded. This is the other thing that people miss sometimes in being triggered, is that some stuff that causes problems for you it's not the situation. This is where we're at today. I mean, in this point, it's the trigger for the situation. You get mad, but you're not mad about the situation. You're mad because you're triggered. And what triggered you had nothing to do with what's going on today. It's the trauma from the past situation that it wasn't until, okay, let me say this, and then I'm going to do something really weird. Just follow me for a second. Mm-hmm. You're in a relationship. He brings home flowers. Mm-hmm. You get mad, throw the flowers at him, and cuss him out. That's how he would look. But what he doesn't know is that your last relationship only brought you flowers when he was drunk and finna abuse you.
Jesus.
Or bought you flowers post the abuse.
Right.
So getting flowers brought up every feeling of abuse and of being abused that you've ever felt. A memory. Mm-hmm. You're in a whole different house.
Right.
You're in a whole other relationship. But because you didn't follow steps 1 and 2 and 3, you're in 4.
Right.
So now you're in a triggered relationship that is pushing you mentally into a mindset that you don't even understand how I got here. So now you're mad, throwing stuff at the new guy. Okay, let me use this analogy, and I use this in all relationships. If I go to a grocery store and I'm in a checkout line, and all I have is a thing of meat. Mm-hmm. I got a thing of meat, and I get ready to check out, and the lady scans my meat and tells me it's $145. Mm-hmm. And I know it's $15 worth of meat that I just gave her. And I ask her, why is this meat not $15? It's $100 and something. She said, because the guy in the front of you didn't pay for his food. Ooh. So you're going to have to pay for his food if you're going to check out here. What would I do? I leave it there.
Right.
Well, pause, rewind, come back, let's approach this thing a different way. That's what happens in relationships. The person before me didn't pay their tab.
Make it plain.
And now I'm in the checkout line and you put their tab on my ticket.
On my ticket.
So now I'm stressed out and triggered because, watch this, I'm stressed out because me coming through your line reminded you of the dude that didn't pay.
Right.
But I'm not him. And when you were triggered, now I have to help you walk through your trigger. And if you want more, we'll be back Tuesday at 7 o'clock on Zoom. Love y'all. If you're looking for a church home, we through. If you want to know more about triggers, come Tuesday night. Got some surprises for you. We're gonna finish this up this week though. Love y'all. I know that was a little bit different, but I just wanted to kind of give y'all a twist and a little commercial for what Tuesday nights are on Zoom. If you're looking for a church home, you can see us on text us at 833-489-7279. You can text Join Victory to 833-489-7279. Thank you all so much. We love you. Two quick things I want to announce. We're going to receive our offering, do our declaration, and then we're going to be out of here. The first thing is, three things, I'm sorry. The first thing is this Tuesday at 7, we'll be talking about triggers. I promise you, if you enjoyed this discussion, Tuesday night we'll be on Zoom only. We might come on Facebook. We're still praying about it. On Tuesday night, on Wednesday prayer team, we're going to do something a little different. We're not going to have prayer meeting. We're going to have another discussion right here on Facebook and YouTube. We're going to have part 2 of the PTSD discussion. And then on next Saturday, at May 30th from 9 to 12, we're going to have a drive up free face mask giveaway. We're going to be giving away face masks that we've been able to get our hands on to help secure. We're going to be at our Angleton location, so those of you that can come, please come love on us, love with us, and let's give back to the community because God has given us blessings and has been good to us. Let's reach out to those that are in need. If you know anyone that has a need for face masks, let them know that on May 30th we'll be passing those out right there at the Victory Community Church physical campus. We are one church in 2 locations. We have our digital campus as well as our physical campus in Angleton, Texas. Please come out on Sunday. Please come out on next Saturday and get your face mask. Pass the word. We'll be having flyers out all over social media. We want to make sure that those that are in need can come and get them. We'll have social distancing. We'll have everything set up where we can be safe, but we can be effective in the kingdom. Let's get ready to give. I want to thank those that have been faithful in their giving over this time again. Thank you for your love, for your attention, your ability to stay with us and be faithful in this time. I want to ask us, don't get weary in your well-doing. Let's continue to give at the level that we were giving when we were in the room. Yes. Let's still give our tithes and our offerings. Got some couple of quick different things we're gonna be doing this week. Some stuff you'll see on our social media, on our Facebook. Please just be in prayer as we go through this, trusting God in this new season of our life. Thank you for your continued support. Thank you those that have sent love gifts. I appreciate them. Sent them to my Cash App, my personal Cash App. Thank you for the text, the love, the everything. I want you to know I genuinely appreciate it. You're in lockdown, but I'm in lockdown as well. And just thank you. I love y'all. Victory family, we'll be seeing you soon on Zoom. We got to do something else. I got to see everybody. Got to catch up again. We love y'all. Let's do our declaration, then we out of here, y'all. Let's do it together. Because God loves to see me prosper, I am believing Him for jobs and better jobs, advancements, raises and bonuses, God ideas and strategies, debts paid off, expenses decreased, blessings and increases, financial freedom and breakthroughs. We love y'all. See y'all next time.
Love you.
Do it again. I muted you, baby.
Love you, love you, love you.